What we're going to look at next is painting in these tattoos, the clouds. I just have this reference up briefly to show you. I've got a couple of references. I've got some more that show the tattoos from all different angles. So obviously this is freehand. There's not really any other way of doing it. I mean, making and cutting decals, I suppose, maybe, but that's not something that I would choose to do. So we'll talk about some tips for freehand. If you want good references for the tattoos, then come find these images on Discord. We have them all in there. Yeah, so let's get on with some freehanding. Okay, so I think the perfect colours for these are light phthalo blue and cobalt blue. So maybe a mix of these for the main cloud colour, mostly the light phthalo blue. The cobalt blue is going to be good for the lining. So I'm just going to put them on the palette. I'm not going to put palette cam up because this is pretty straightforward stuff. Just a helping of each on the palette. And then you want to have your reference up at all times really and keep referring to it. So I have my reference up. I'm going to start on the back. I'm going to have to excuse some of the pastel experiments I've done on there. I decided to do the pastels after the clouds, just so we don't put any pastel anywhere that the clouds want to be, basically, and the tattoo wants to be, because it's going to be a bit more difficult to paint over the pastel. So we'll do the pastel shading afterwards. And then, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things that's a little bit difficult to really teach someone how to be better at freehanding. You just need to get used to it. But obviously we'll talk about some tips on here. So having the reference and having comfortable work environment where you can keep the model stable and have your hands rested to avoid any kind of wobbling. Use a brush with a fine point. One of my favourites are these Green Stuff World Gold series. I've said about them before. I've had them for absolutely ages. Still serve me really well. And these shapes, in theory, are quite easy to freehand. And I know it's maybe easy for me to say that, but these kind of loose curves, it don't really need to be exact. So you want a consistency. Well, it's just like good practice for painting detail of any kind, really. The consistency on the brush that's thin enough to make a mark from the lightest possible pressure. You really just want to be using a light touch to fill this in, but not so thin that it runs on the surface. You can see it's just staying exactly where I put it. It's not running, it's not pooling, it's not forming a blob. Just follow your reference. Just got like a little drop there. For this you want to be painting with the tip of the brush, certainly for the lining stage. You could maybe make an argument for filling in the details with a different brush, one that holds a bit more paint. In fact, that might not be a bad idea. I'm going to go through and roughly line and fill in these shapes. and then yeah, look at doing a bit more of a comprehensive fill with a different brush. So work on the lining to begin with. You just want to keep everything nice and steady. Take your time. Personally, I'm not too worried about getting all of this like exact. I always find it easier to work towards you, brush in this direction. So move the model when you want to change the angle. Right, and I'm gonna follow some of these tattoo designs as best as I can, but again, I'm not gonna stress too much about having them all be exactly correct. Just, you know, drive yourself crazy, I think, just trying to get them all exactly perfect. I mean, that's kind of up to you, I guess, depending how you want to do it. Eventually, once you've done a couple, you kind of get warmed up and get your eye in with them. You start to be able to draw the lines a bit more freely. So yeah, I'm choosing to draw it all in with this blue color and then do the lining separately, because then, like, if I make a mistake, I can sort of color it in and then line it with the dark color afterwards. That's kind of my thinking with that. It's mostly all just kind of curves interlocking, really. Again, I'm not sure anyone's going to mind if it's not absolutely perfectly accurate. Yeah, just sort of do your best to get the style right. I'm going to use one of these brushes that holds a bit more paint, something with a bigger belly, just to fill in the colour here. So really, I'm basically just using the light phthalo blue, but mixing in a little bit of cobalt blue just to help with the coverage, so I don't have to go over it too many times. That's basically all there is to it. I'm going to just sort of fill in these off camera, and I'll come back when we do the lining of them. So yeah, just remember the most important things: be comfortable, thin your paint properly, use a reference, don't worry about doing your own interpretation if you can't find, you know, an exactly perfect reference to draw from. Use a good brush, all of that kind of thing. Right, let's look at the lining of these clouds now. So I'm using the cobalt blue, so I haven't filled in everything really precisely, because we'll do this first. So you lined these tattoos already, just kind of do the same. If you're going to make a mistake, do it inside of the cloud so you can adjust it with the blue colour rather than the skin. So you can kind of lean the brush in slightly in that direction just to kind of make sure that that's where the errors go, I suppose. Clouds end up looking something like this. Again, trying to follow a guide as much as I can, but it's not super clear how all of these go, so again, not going to concern myself too much with making them perfect. Again, this is where we don't fill it in really thoroughly just yet, because we might want to potentially adjust some of these lines. So like something like here, have a I guess a small mistake, but we haven't filled it in yet. Whoops, that is way too thin. Great example of paint being too thin. Sometimes it can happen on the wet palette where you get like a little pool of water. So I'm just going to leave that part alone for now, just think while it dries. Don't want to touch it. Worst place to make a mistake on the front like this. Yeah, go ahead and start filling them in. This is definitely the point to take extra time. Again, like rotate the model, make sure you've got a really comfortable angle. Get rid of that bit there. Alright, it takes time. You may well need to go over this a couple of times. To get that colour really consistent. But for now, let that dry, move on to another section. Like this bit here, we need to tidy this up. This definitely wasn't my best brushwork ever. Again, like I said, try to make the mistakes inside the cloud rather than outside, and then it's going to be a lot easier to clean up. There you go, see this is kind of well on the way now to looking how we want it. Yeah, just keep on with this. I'm going to check this one actually before I commit to it, in case I want to put another. It's a bit plain, that large shape. But yeah, that's basically all there is to it. I know maybe I make it look a bit easy, but just take your time and don't panic if you make a mistake. And you know, before you know it, this will be easy for you.